Welcome along to Aston Villa from the stands, and welcome to everyone who's in here right now, or if you're watching on replay, make sure you smash the like, subscribe, and get in the comment section on your views on today's main topic, which is none other than Jhon Duran. Jhon Redemption Duran. This is our Sunday spotlight, where I will be focusing on one of the key moments, key players, key factors that happens from our action in the Premier League, Champions League, or any other game that Villa are involved in. But there is no other better place than to start with, of course, Jhon Duran. And there is a lot of blue Elton John vibes going on here right now. And what I mean by that is sorry seems to be the hardest word. Sorry does seem to be the hardest word, not only from Duran, but maybe from a lot of us Aston Villa fans here right now. So I have asked a big question first and foremost. Have you forgiven Jhon Duran? And dare I say that usual analogy that people say football fans are fickle? Well, maybe we just are, because there was nothing sweeter yesterday than seeing Jhon Duran hit the back of the net with a beautiful, beautiful finish. And of course, it was something that has been delightful to see. Aston Villa, 3 points, haven't won at West Ham since 2011, by the way. And our first win at that new London stadium. It couldn't have been sweeter. It could have been more poetic. And it's an interesting one to see. So big up to everyone who's watching live right now. And big up to everyone who's watching on replay. Look, let's get into this. There's a lot to discuss. First and foremost, let's just build up the story again to remind ourselves why this Jhon Duran saga yesterday is just such football poetry in itself. He has caused us the biggest headaches. I have said it. There's been a lot of you who have said it. Let's not talk about Duran anymore because we know he's going. Yes, he's not going to be at Aston Villa. I probably would even quote myself by saying that I reckon a couple of weeks ago, I was saying I could bet you all the money in the world that I have, you won't see Jhon Duran in a Villa shirt again. Yet here we are on the opening weekend, lauding our hero. And that is a big statement to say. But big up everyone. Big up Michael Huggins. Big up Rhino Skim. Big up Alan Ford, my lord. And there's meant to be a 40 million price tag on Jhon Duran's head. And we will discuss that today. Jhon Redemption Duran still may not be over yet, this saga. And that's where I want to pause at. It still may not be over. But our spotlight focus is going to be on him, his involvement yesterday, what we could hope for Duran if he stays at Aston Villa. And what do you guys think about how we move forward with him and his role in the team? But what Michael Huggins is saying is exactly what I thought and what I've started to sort of reflect on is Jhon Duran's age, how badly that the politics in football can influence someone's mind and head. We only have to go to Carney Chukwuemeka to see that. But also as well that maybe there is a place for forgiveness. As I said, sorry seems to be the hardest word. We didn't really ever get a proper sorry from Duran. But I think yesterday's celebrations painted that picture. Big up to KSX6. Big up to Farmitude. Big up to Dino. Big up to you, mate. Longest ever member. Sing me a song. You're up there. 3 years. It's unbelievable. Great to have you on board. But yeah, big up to everyone in the house. Brian Eccles, we looked good yesterday. Can't wait for Arsenal next week. Me neither. Big up to Dylan, to Michelle, and to everyone else in the house. Right, let's go back to this. And why did Jhon Duran basically almost tear, his bond with Villa, his relationship with Villa, his pattern with Villa, his affiliation with Villa? Well, it was this video here, and I've just got to get the picture up to remind us because I just don't even know how this has ever happened and how Duran even forgets that things on the internet can be clipped. Jhon Duran made this sign, and we know that sign is the hammers, the irons, and we know that was basically, he was egged on to do it when basically West Ham fans were in his Instagram live, basically prying him, begging him to say, come on, you're going to be joining us. And Jhon Duran himself probably thought that he was on the way to play for West Ham until that deal absolutely collapsed. And so that picture there probably and was rent-free in a lot of Villa heads. It definitely was in mine. And that sign for me was enough to go, I don't want anything to do with him. And I'm sure there was a lot of you in the chat right now who felt the same. That was it. Kai's tied the cut. That picture of Jhon Duran doing that, geez, we couldn't deal with it. So you think, okay, Pre-season happens. He doesn't feature on the US tour. He obviously played for Colombia in the Copa America. There was these rumors of the Chelsea deal that fell through, the West Ham deal that then fell through, and it was almost like, what the hell are we going to do with Jhon Duran? And finally, then this happens, doesn't it? We play West Ham opening game, and people joked about it. People came in with their score predictions yesterday and said, imagine the scenes, Jhon Duran late winner. And my response to that was, if Jhon Duran has to come off the bench and score a late winner, it probably means we haven't played well, because it obviously means we're quite desperate to have to use him. Well, in a weird way, that isn't true. Yes, we did have to freshen it up because of Ollie Watkins and the lack of minutes and the lack of intensity he had. However, it also meant that actually his winner was a part of a Villa attack, Villa changes, Villa squad depth that made us look the real deal, made us look impeccable. And for me, if there's any fan out there who doesn't think Aston Villa should have won yesterday, then I really would like you to maybe go to Specsavers and double check that, because for me, Villa dominated those proceedings. We were absolutely robbed of a penalty. We missed gilt-edged chances, and nothing but 3 points was the correct result for Aston Villa yesterday. By the way, I want to go to the super chat here. Big up again to my man, Dono Dino, legend in the house. So Duran still goes, in my opinion. We need a backup forward, but Watkins still short. Now, I will come on to that, Dino, because that's sort of my ending of this video. And thank you for that super chat. It means a lot. Your support is unbelievable. But we have to go to where is Duran's future, and that's where it's going to end, because there is still rumours that he could be off, and this saga is not over. So let's paint the picture then. Ollie Watkins did okay yesterday, but what I love about Unai Emery is that Unai Emery is not afraid to make the big changes where changes are needed. And let's be real here. Sometimes Unai makes subs, and I know you're at home, like I am on watch-alongs, going, what are you doing, Unai? But then we also have to remember that in Unai Emery, we trust. In Unai Emery, we trust. And I kid you not now, Unai's substitutions are absolutely spot on. And you have to remember, Unai made substitutions with a very weak bench last season and still made impact. This year, Unai Emery was able to bring on Maatsen, Jacob Ramsey, Duran off the bench, who all played a part in that brilliant goal that we were able to see, as well as Kostin Anđelković and Jadon Philogene. And that is the beauty of us right now. So Ollie Watkins, he ran that West Ham defence rugged. He did make really good runs into the channel, tried to pull them out wide like he does in his one-on-one duels. However, the only difference was that Ollie seamlessly didn't look as match sharp with the ball at his feet. He didn't seem a player that had minutes in the tank in pre-season, and we needed something different. Now, a lot of people said, bring on Morgan, put Morgan Rogers down as the 9. Jacob Ramsey comes out wide. Oh, no. Unai just rolled the dice and said, Duran, fancy it? Fancy it? This is your chance to make up for what you've done this summer. This is your chance to almost just silence everyone. And do you know what? Let's get into it a bit more, because it wasn't just as easy as that when Duran come on and going, oh, this is so good. And I will remind you of an incident. I'm going to go to the comments, but I'm going to remind you of an incident that happened in the game yesterday where I lost my head, absolutely lost my head at Duran. And if you were in my watch along yesterday, you will know that incident. If you weren't, I'll go through it because I've got a reminder of it for you now. But big up to chat. Big up to Gracie. I hope you're well, and I will reply to messages. That's on my to-do list tonight, and thank you very much for tuning in. Big up to KS6. This won't be the same West Ham in the reverse fixture. I don't care. I think we're still dealing at home. Forget all the noise. What do you think of Duran's performance when he came on? That's what we're going to go into now, Michael. His actual performance when he came on. Because, again, I want to say this. Ollie Watkins, for me, without the ball, was actually still quite sharp yesterday. If you actually really analyse Watkins' movement, the way he tries to stretch defences, the way that he can isolate attacks, hold the ball up, his hold-up play was still quite good. But it was that when he was going towards goal, he looked really rusty. Duran, I've always criticised and said he can't hold the ball up well. I've always said Duran's link-up play is nowhere near the level it should be. Duran, with his back to goal, for me, needs to be better. However, what Duran is someone who's a sharpshooter, who's someone who does play on the edge and can do that unpredictable thing. Now, this was unpredictable item number 1 from Jhon Duran, and I absolutely, I'll be honest, this was the moment where I thought I literally can't stand you, Duran. This tweet right here was the moment, and if you can remember it, then of course amazing. If you can't, there was a ball played through for Jhon Duran on the left-hand side. He was played in. It was very early on into his appearance coming off the bench, and he hits the side netting. And he was played in by Luca Dean, and he hits the side netting. First of all, if he was going to shoot, he should be put on target, by the way. But then that was the theme of Aston Villa yesterday. We missed chances with Leon Bailey. We missed chances with Ollie Watkins. John McGinn as well for me, that right-footed one. He should have put that bottom corner. But Jhon Duran hits the side netting, and that wasn't the annoying part. The annoying part was, and as Jacob Tanswell has politely said, possibly could have squared to Ramsey. Possibly. I can't find an image of that chance, and I'm not going to replay it because I don't want to get copyrighted. But you've got to use your memory here. If Jhon Duran squares that to Jacob Ramsey has a tap in. Jacob Ramsey has a tap in. It's a goal. End of. But my problem was, and that was where I got frustrated with Duran's early performance, was that he's still trying to make it all about himself. It was all about him in the summer. It was all about Jhon Duran, negative noise. He comes on the pitch and straight away he's negatively impacting the team because he's still trying to make it about himself. Instead of passing to someone in a better space, he wanted the goal. He wanted to make the headlines. He wanted to almost have his apology, which we did go on to later see. And that was where, again, you could either argue as two sides of the coin. It'll be interesting how you guys feel in the chat. And I will come to your comments again in the chat, by the way. And big up to everyone who's here. Make sure you have smashed the like button. We've got 60 odd of you in here. Only 15 likes. Keep smashing that like button up for me. But you have to argue that some would say, Josh, all good strikers are greedy. All good strikers are selfish. If that was Ollie Watkins, Josh, would you be giving him the same criticism? And that is a good point. But my also point is that I actually think Watkins would square that. I actually think Watkins' mindset is a little bit different and would square that. So Jhon Duran, to be a top striker, you have to be greedy. You like some Ruud van Nistelrooy's never passed in the 18-yard box. Thierry Henry when he enters. The top strikers of the top era, Harry Kane, would not be squaring that. Okay? So top strikers don't pass in the box, but Jacob Ramsey was in a better position, and I felt at that moment in time Duran was almost trying too hard. There was another phase of play where Duran picks up the ball on the right-hand side, and he's dribbling into no space, really. He could just recycle the ball. He could just pass it, loses the ball, runs into a crowd of trouble, but then does recover and win the ball back. And I kept saying, just don't do too much. Don't do too much here, Duran. Just play your game, which is in the 18-yard box, looking to create chances. And stay out of trouble was the other thing. But we've got to go to his goal in a minute because there's so much to talk about his goal. But what has probably reminded me of Jhon Duran is that his ability inside the 18-yard box is probably why Aston Villa have put a price tag in on him as such high as it is. Because, again, when we go back to this, he hits the side netting. It was a good chance. He probably should score that one. The second chance he takes, and that is something prolific at his age and his level, what we need to talk more about. But big up to Rob P, one of our members. He says, forgiven, never cared much about the online streams or whatever he plays. However, he can get a good transfer. Let's do it. Need a handy replacement, though. And replacements, and this is the issue now, where I have come to terms with it, is getting a Jhon Duran replacement with however many days left, 2 weeks, let's say, going to be easy to do. No. So when you've got a player like Jhon Duran in the books, who's clearly talented, who's clearly a clinical finisher, and now has had a few years under his belt in the Premier League to know what it's like to play, is there a better option out there? Have we really got him settled down enough now to go, here he is? And I think yesterday we have to go to it. And let's get the picture up to remind ourselves because, you know, we've gone from him doing the irons and the hammer sign to John now Oh, sorry, wrong tab there. To John now, pointing at the Villa badge. And what I loved about this celebration was that it was his public apology. It was his public apology of saying sorry, badge, and down. And when you get someone able to publicly apologize like that, I respect it. I respect it. And also, you could also say is the talking is done on the pitch, not off the pitch. The player looked fully committed. The player was ready to put himself out there. The player delivered the goods, and then he follows up with a sincere apology. He doesn't go and give it a big one. He doesn't go and give the Villa fans a shh. Because there was a lot of Villa fans who trolled him. There was a lot of Villa fans who were negatively speaking about him. And dare I say it, put me in that category. Put me in that category. I can hold my hands up and say, I spoke badly about Jhon Duran. However, his apology for me and his performance is enough for me. And go back to that question, have I forgiven? Yes. I've forgiven, but I haven't forgotten. And that's the key for me now. I have forgiven John Duran. I think a lot of Villa fans have forgiven John Duran, but I haven't forgotten what he's done. And we have to be cautious at that. And the next few weeks will show us what is next. So I want to go to his level of finishing because it's something that, as I said, I like to try and take 24 hours before I talk about a game of football. Because if I go and do a reaction straight after a game, sometimes it's too emotional. Sometimes it's the wrong emotion. Give it 24 hours and you can actually step back and go, do you know what? Yeah, you'll see the game differently. My opinion of John Duran has changed in that sense as well. But as Alan Foreman always says, did it at Sevilla. Unai knows what he's doing and has given everyone a chance. Absolutely. Emery is a top manager that should be respected. His changes of different class. The depth that we have now is why Unai will show his worth and class to every manager. I'm serious about that. Greedy Duran. Strikers are selfish, that's how it is. Big up to Super Matty Taylor as well. And big up to Gracie Lynn in the house as well. I've just seen that come through. And thank you so much for the super chat. Please, yeah, I will, absolutely. I'm on it. I'm on it. And no problem at all. Sorry. Someone just asked me. But yeah, there we go. Big up to everyone in the chat. Let's talk about his level of finishing of what we saw. Emery rates him, and that's what a lot of you are saying. Big up to Krim as well. Duran now, and this is where I want to genuinely hear your honest views. Does Jhon Duran? Is there a world where Jhon Duran starts for Aston Villa over anyone? Because rightly or wrongly, Ollie Watkins is almost irreplaceable. The only way Ollie can be replaced from the starting lineup is for me if he's got an injury or if he goes on what I would say a 5 or 6 games different spell of not scoring. What I actually think Jhon Duran can bring to Aston Villa is quality off the bench. I don't want a player that young to be named as a super sub. But how many times have we seen Jhon Duran come off the bench? Liverpool last season, West Ham here, where he comes off the bench and he makes an impact. And for me, the way Jhon Duran finds a way to start is his hold-up play needs to be better. If you want to say why Watkins is pivotal to Villa, if you looked at some of the patterns of play yesterday, Watkins back to goal, held it up, was able to pop it off, and then the ball from either Tielemans or Onana was looking to get Bailey or Morgan Rogers. That's where Duran has to develop to get into the starting lineup for me, his back to goal play. Don't get me wrong. If Duran is someone who keeps up this level of finishing that he's displaying for Aston Villa, he's got a massive future for us. But yeah, let's go to the future of Duran as well. And he is, as Gracie said, that he's not even 21, and he's a top player at that age as well. Lots of concentration. Don't forget we're building up position at school. Exactly, and I love that a lot of you are sort of in that mindset now of almost seeing that actually he was young, he's made mistakes, and this is why in football we are called fickle, and we are fickle because believe me, now I will say this with chest. If we didn't win that game yesterday, or we dropped points, I think I'm doing a stream where I'm coming at Jhon Duran a little bit, but not passing to Jacob Ramsey. But Football works in a glorious way, and sometimes we need reminders in life. Sometimes we need reminders in life of why things happen for a reason. And Jhon Duran scoring yesterday was meant to happen for a reason. It was meant to happen to propel Villa's season. And dare I say, if Jhon Duran stays, who knows what sort of season he could have? Who knows what sort of season that guy could display for us? Do you know what I mean? Superman said, I love the fact he's a selfish maverick and a bit of an asshole. The best football strikers are exactly that. I'll never forget, I'll never forget something. I think it was an interview from Ruud van Nistelrooy back in the day when I was growing up watching. And he just said, as soon as because people always said, Ruud, you're known as a goal scorer in the 18-yard box. He was like, A, he was like, that's my job. But B, he was like, you will never see me passing when I receive the ball in the 18-yard box. My only instinct when I'm in the 18-yard box is where's the goal. And that is a bit like where Duran is. Now, you could actually almost criticize. I hate saying this word. If you have to be critically reflective of Ollie Watkins, maybe Ollie Watkins is a little more hesitant because he's less selfish. And I know that sounds crazy, but Watkins' mindset is a bit more of about the team. Watkins is happy, and the numbers back it up with his GA, that he's a little bit more or less selfish than others. And therefore, Ollie is sometimes hesitant. Should he shoot or should he not? So do you know what I mean? It's one of them. But yeah, big up to everyone. Make sure you smash the like and all that stuff. Duran just wants to play football. Surely he can get more minutes on the pitch. Why put all the pressure on Watkins? Exactly. Rotation is massive. Terry Turner says, lads, hit the like button up the Villa. Yeah, and this is interesting. Super Matty was in the away end, so it's good to get that perspective. Some fans maybe booed him when he came on. Not a lot, though. And when you wear the shirt, you know he's going to give us everything, right? You know he'd give us everything. And that's all we can ask for. As supporters and fans, as soon as you put on the claret and blue, or yesterday, the white, then just give us everything. We don't care what you do off the pitch, but it's what you do on the pitch. And he did give us everything. Better hold up play, John Duran or Cameron Archer, no contest. And this is why, again, we have to credit Unai Monchi. The Cameron Archer deal, it's made sense. It's made sense again. And that's all I can say on it. But yeah, hopefully he does play in the cup games and the old Champions League game. That would be great. Agree what Krim and Pete Tandy are saying with that. But yeah, big up to Richard Edwards, big up to Duper as well. Hope you're well. But yeah, we absolutely have to let go of it. Big up to Potaz as well. So Alex Moreno says, I've been saying it all summer, stick with Duran. He's the next Drogba. What a comparison that is, by the way. Drogba, top finisher. Yeah, so I love that. And all your comments are amazing. Big up to Matt Parker. And look, I know I went through the roller coaster of emotion with Duran yesterday. If you watch the watch along, you will know I absolutely cussed him when he didn't pass to Ramsey. I lost my head for about a minute. But then when he scores, it's Redemption City. It's Red Dead Redemption. It is absolutely unbelievable. And we have to almost, it's written there. But look, Super Sub isn't a bad name as such at his age because he's still young and learning. And big up to Vamos VJ as well, top mod in the house. But he's right to push on Unai Emery's door. He's right to knock on Unai Emery's door and say, hey, Gaffer, my goal scoring record's not bad. I don't know if you saw the stat yesterday, but I think John Duran's now scored 4 goals in his last 8 Aston Villa appearances. 50% goal rate, you're taking that absolutely all day long, aren't you? You are taking that all day long from a striker of that age who's not as veteran experienced in the Premier League. So what this says to me is now, in the back of Ollie Watkins' mind, he knows that there's a striker who is capable of coming on and scoring. I'll be really honest. If Cameron Archer was behind Ollie Watkins for the season, I think Watkins can still sit there with a cigar and go, Gaffer, this is easy. Unai, come on, man. But I actually do believe that Jhon Duran, being in the squad, being on that bench, can elevate Ollie Watkins. I think if you go back to where Ollie Watkins scored his first goal against Chelsea back last season, then went on that crazy goal-scoring streak. Well, if you go back to that, correct me if I'm wrong here, chat, but was Duran not starting to get a start over Watkins a game or two before? And Duran was fuming that he was left on the bench against Chelsea. I remember, I'll never forget that image where Duran was fuming that he was left on the bench against Chelsea. Watkins finally gets his first goal of the season, goes on that run. Pressure is good. Competition is good. Watkins will thrive off it. And I want Duran to thrive off it. I want Duran now To grab every moment like he did yesterday by the balls and go, I'm going to fucking score. I'm going to score. I'm actually going to score in this game, and I'm going to keep scoring until the gaffer puts me in the lineup. And that's all I can want. And all Ollie Watkins is going to have to start doing is going, bloody hell, this guy behind me is going to be the number 1 soon. He's got the number 9 shirt as well. It's massive. It's absolutely massive. But yeah, interesting what Rob P says. Don't think Watkins is the way. He needs to feel trusted more and challenged. That is an interesting one because that was the dilemma of Gerrard with Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins. So I do actually agree on that point. But I think Watkins has matured over those years, and now because his numbers have proven it, he'll be a bit more relaxed about it. So it's a good place to be. I'm glad you remember it as well, Richard. And Archer versus Duran is no contest. But let's just finally try and wrap this video up in a minute. And as I said, my plan for this is I want to, after every game, do a Sunday spotlight where we focus on one player's performance. And you know, I could have spoke about Onana. I could have spoke about Yuri Tillemans. There are a few players I could have spoken about today, but there's no fitting player than Jhon Duran to start off our first Sunday spotlight. But yeah, am I going on Saturday, Matthew Taylor? I'm not. I'll be doing the watch along. I do need to sort out my membership and make sure all their eggs are lined up on that. But I hope anyone who's going to the first home game against Arsenal, I hope we do them over, and I hope we cook those Gunners for the 3rd time in a row. I really do. But yeah, exactly that. The substitute bench was unbelievable, wasn't it? That we used. So John Duran's future. Look, I've read again today that there are still Saudi clubs massively interested in John Duran. One being Al Hilal. They love John Duran, and I think yesterday was a massive thing. West Ham have got to look at it now, and this is where I'm at. This is where I look at West Ham. If you really want John Duran, but you've got Mikel Antonio, you've got Folkrug, who you've just brought in, and you've got Danny Ings. John Duran, where would he, as your 4th striker, fit in there? Can John Duran go into a West Ham side and make a difference with those 4 strikers? Again, I would think he'd find himself in a similar position that he is at Villa, where game time is limited. And it would have been the same at Chelsea. So I keep saying this. If a player like Duran really wants to move, find a club where you're going to be the number 1. Find a club where you're going to be the number 1. So it is, and Antonio is done. I agree on that. But no, Alan Ford, you are. We love Alan Ford. Alan Ford, you are the Lord. As I said, when you speak, it is always a pleasure. But yeah, I do agree. Some of you have actually come up and said about the fact that Ollie Watkins likes to be trusted and not have that pressure. And that is a really good point. I'm reflecting on that as this stream's going on about that with Ollie. So it's a beautiful thing. But 40 million for John Duran, it's a big price now. And if anyone wants to, they're going to have to pay it. And that's what Villa are saying. I'll be honest, though, in 2 weeks, can we find a replacement? I'm going to say no. I don't think it's that easy to find a replacement, especially in those forward positions. João Felix saga, I just don't really get what's going on with that one still. It's doing my head in. I think the quicker the transfer window shuts, the better. But what I sort of saw today, and this is how I want to wrap up with this bit of thing as well. Yeah, exactly, PC. He was thinking that as well. He was thinking that. And big up to Christina and Gary H as well. Richo's in the house. Big up to everyone who's smashing the like button. And Michael Huggins as well. Really glad you appreciate this sort of content. I really do. I just speak from the heart, really. That's how I speak when it comes to football. I try not to overthink it. Just speak how I feel. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. And I love hearing your comments. I love interacting with the chat as best I can. So where am I at? I looked at Man City today. Man City is a contrast to Chelsea in the sense that Man City had basically an 11 that played last year. And there isn't too much to change. There isn't too much to edit. There isn't too much for new players to understand. But it was basically nearly a carbon copy. Yes, they had that new sign Savio in. Yes, there was no Rodri, but there. Yes, with Aston Villa yesterday, we only had one new signing start in Onana. And for me, we are forgetting what's in front of us. We are forgetting what's in front of us, chat. That our players are still bloody brilliant. Our players can be coached to a new level. And I bloody love that we have a football club that has a very good caliber of players right in front of us. We don't have to sweat. We don't have to worry. And any addition has got to be good enough to strengthen us. And I love that our bench now was so good. And let's think about this yesterday. When Dia doesn't come off the bench, Barkley, the new signing, Ross Barkley, doesn't come off the bench yesterday as our new subs. It's madness to think that actually two of those players could go and actually start another team in the Premier League. So let's just remember this, Villa fans. Our team was good last season. We finished on the top 4. Our team will still be good this season because we're going to continue as we are. And whatever impact is thrown into us of new additions is only going to strengthen us, but they've got to be good enough. We don't need another 3 or 4 new signings. We don't. I promise you now, it just hit me like it hit me overnight. We only need 1 addition, if that, in a forward area now. Until at least January. As crazy as that sounds, we only need 1 new addition. If anyone's sat there going, let's get 3 or 4 more in, why? The squad's good enough. We don't want to disrupt the harmony. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. And let's love the team that we've got. Let's embrace it. Players are still going to go up the level. Thought Morgan Rogers was only a 5 out of 6 out of 10 yesterday. And that's me putting really high standards on him now. We haven't seen a fully fit Ollie. Bailey was getting kicked over the park yesterday. It was disgraceful. But then you had low-key Yuri Tillemans coming and doing his thing and going, hey, boys, don't forget me. Pau Torres, I mean, does Pau Torres troll us all pre-season? I swear that bloke's a troll. Makes everyone think he's useless. And then he literally was running off electrolytes, batteries, superchargers. It's unbelievable. We need only 1 new player, if that. I really do feel that now. We don't need to overhaul this squad. We don't need to go too crazy. Trust the coaching. Trust the process. But yeah, big up to everyone. Richard Edwards, a legends. He's loving it. Big up. There's so many positive people in it. And guys, keep smashing up that like button. I really do appreciate it. I really, really do. Look, so, and I love this comment. Absolutely love it. But look, let's wrap this up because I could go on and on and on. So what we're going to do is... we are going to probably this week at some point build up to this Arsenal game. We'll do a live stream. I've got a big thing about Arsenal. I'm known as an Arsenal hater. People think I've got a lot of hate towards Arsenal. We'll talk about Arsenal. We'll talk about the Villa. We'll talk if there's any transfer business or activity. We'll do that as well. And of course, there is maybe, hopefully this week as well, I'm going to be releasing my new content. I just want to tell you this. I've got a new series coming up. It's going to involve all Villa creators to start. And then we're going to pull other fan channels around. But it's called My Rent-Free 11. I'm going to give you 11 players who live rent-free in my head. And I must admit, I've watched the Adama Traore again against on Friday night. And my God, he's got a lifetime deal in my side. And I'm going to be getting other than Villa creators to come and give me their rent-free 11s. It might be players who played against Villa that live rent-free in your head or whatever. And then we're going to pull them. We're going to try and do 1 of those a week. I hope you guys will enjoy that sort of series, but that's where I'm at. So that's a new special off-road feature that we're going to be doing, but all the Villa content, more than ever this season. Last year, I only really did watch-alongs and the odd reaction. More streams like this because I live it for you guys. I live it for you guys, smashing the support, and I love talking Villa, and I can talk Villa all day long. But another one, yes, Richard Edwards, another one, you know it. And big up Super Matt. I'm glad you had a great away day yesterday. Well, of course, we'll get people like Deji giving us our rent-free 11s. It's going to be all throughout the season. We're going to keep doing every game week. We're going to try and get a rent-free 11. But I'm going to wrap it up here. I just want to shout out, and you guys, of course, will be loving it each week, I'm sure. I want to shout out Ken M. Always comes in with the massive support as always. Duran can still go. Morgan Rogers is hard. RB, yeah, we saw the struggles of Costa and Kashi at times yesterday, but they also did well. And Mohamed Kudus, by the way, he's a good player, isn't he? He's a good player. Big up, Ken M. You are the man, the myth, the legend, and I appreciate it. And by the way, this guy, I love him because he's an absolute real guy, just like a lot of you guys out there. He's Alan Ford, my Lord, Alan Ford. Oh, Lord, Alan Ford. He loves the 6064 Cronenberg. I need to actually get one and toast it to you. He loves his music. He loves the Villa, and we love it. We love it. Absolutely. 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 You know it. So my team's going to be out there for everyone. You lot are going to love and leave you. Big up. Happy. Hope you've had a nice weekend. Villa have had 3 points. I'll see you throughout the week for loads more Villa content. Shout outs to you all. And if you are watching on replay, big up as well. I appreciate your time. I see you all in the comments. I thank you all in the comments. And each week you come out and support. It's so unbelievable. Night Villains, up the Villa. And here we go. One more time for the weekend. 3 points. Another one. Jhon Redemption Duran. Ta-da!